Hey friends, so I wanted to come today to do a 32-week pregnancy update because I haven't done one of these even though I said I would. And then as well as share my high-risk pregnancy story because this pregnancy is considered high risk. My last one was not. It was perfectly vanilla. So yeah, I thought I'd just share those things with you. So we'll start with the update because it's not very much. 32 weeks pregnant. I go and see my high-risk OB tomorrow, so we'll know like how big she is and stuff then. When I saw them last time, which was I think four weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago now, she measured perfectly appropriate, even just a little bit ahead, so that's good. I see my OB every week now. Every week that I don't see my high-risk OB, and that's just because of the nature of this pregnancy is the only reason why I do that. Normally I don't think you start doing that until 35, 36 weeks, but I have to see her every week and get a non-stress test, which is basically where they hook you up to the monitors like they do in L&D, and monitor the baby's heart rate, and any uterine activity, so any contractions or anything like that. And they want to make sure the baby's heart rate goes up appropriately and comes down appropriately. So yeah, I do that every week that I don't go see my high-risk OB. So this week I see my high-risk OB, so I don't have to see my regular OB and I don't have to do the stress test. Instead, I get an ultrasound. So that'll be tomorrow. Otherwise, I think everything has been going well. All things considered. I did have some like unexplained shortness of an episode of unexplained shortness of breath last week. So I called my OB. They wanted me to go to the ER, which I begrudgingly did because the risks are high, which I will talk about. But everything ended up okay. So that is the second ER visit I've had of this pregnancy, which pains me to say. The ER is not a fun place, but thankfully everything is okay. So it's better to be safe than sorry all around. So everything is okay. Symptom wise, I think overall I've been feeling fairly decently. The nausea is back, which I hate that it's back. So I spent the whole first like 25 weeks feeling nauseated almost every single night. So I would wake up in the morning, I would feel fine, I'd get all my stuff done, I'd go about my day, and then around 5 o'clock it would hit me like a ton of bricks and I would just feel like I just wanted to curl up in a ball and not do anything. But you know, when you have a small child in a family, that's not an option, so you have to soldier through and cook dinner and you know, try to find something that you can eat that doesn't make your symptoms worse. But then it got a little bit better and now we're kind of there again. It's still not near as bad as it was for all those weeks in a row, but it has come back. So we're just dealing with that as, you know, as you do. Back pain. So I've had a lot of lower back, hip, like pelvic pain. And I tell myself, like, I would have thought, this is not my first go around. I would think everything would already be like in the proper positioning, like everything would already be stretched out, but I guess not. So that's something else that's been going on, which I think has actually gotten a little bit better. And I think that the exercising that I've been doing just kind of exacerbates that. Not in a sense that it means that I probably shouldn't exercise. It just means that my center of gravity is off. And so I just have to make adjustments to what I'm doing. But even still, it still hurts. But thankfully that's gotten better as well. So all in all of that is better. I have gained, last time I checked, I've gained 25 pounds and I'm 32 weeks. So I technically still have 8 weeks to go. But she will be here in either 6 or 7. So it'll depend on the ultrasounds and what my high-risk OB says, which I'll talk about. But I still got some weeks to go, so there's still going to be some some gaining left to do. So with my first one, I gained a solid even 35 pounds. And I started at a lower weight than I was with this one, but that's okay. It is what it is. I try to make healthy decisions. I go to the gym. I do what I can do. So the rest of it is kind of out of my control. So I think that's it as far as symptoms go. As far as any updates, the nursery is almost completely done. We painted the walls, put up the shiplap. I put together the crib. I ordered the car seat. My husband has a car seat for his car. After Christmas, just because we have a lot of stuff out right now, after Christmas, I plan on getting the rest of the stuff out of the attic and going through that. But I've already looked through it, and so I already know what I have. And I need to look through clothes, and I got a bunch of clothes. And so I really feel like we don't need anything else. There's nothing else that I could think of that we need. Like not one thing. Like diapers were good, wipes were good, shower, soap, baby soap were good. So I think overall we're pretty, we're doing pretty well as far as all of that goes. There's not really anything else that I can think of. She has a safe place to sleep. She has a safe place to ride in the car. She has a safe place to be with me. So I think we're pretty good. So yeah, that is all of that. So the my high risk, pregnancy story. So, my first pregnancy was perfectly normal, like I said, perfectly vanilla. The only thing was that my doctor put me on a baby aspirin because I have a history of a, we call it a TIA-like episode. I never went to the hospital, so I was never formally diagnosed with a TIA. But when I described the symptoms that I had, it sounds exactly like a TIA. And if you don't know what a TIA is, that's a transient ischemic attack. So some people will call it a mini stroke. It basically means you had stroke-like symptoms for a shorter period of time, which resolved without any deficits and without any interventions. And it never progressed. So the most important thing about TIAs is that they increase your risk of having an actual stroke. So having a TIA means that you're more likely to have an actual stroke within, like, I don't know off the top of my head, 30 or 60 days or something like that, which thankfully didn't happen. I was 18 at the time when this happened, but regardless of all of that, my OB was aware of that. She was aware of that situation, so she put me on a baby aspirin throughout my pregnancy. And then took me off of it, I think at 38 weeks, and then I delivered at 41. I didn't have any bleeding complications, no clotting complications, no complications at all. So, at about, and then I don't think I resumed taking a baby aspirin after that. I don't believe I did. So after that, after my daughter was born, I started to feel, she was about 4 or 5 months old. I started to feel very, very anxious. I felt like my heart was racing. I felt like my mind was racing. I felt like I could never be still. I could never sit still. I felt like I was constantly moving. Every muscle, every nerve, every fiber of my being just wanted to constantly be going. And anything that I ate would just come right back out. So one particular event occurred, and I went and saw my primary care doctor, and I was like, look, something is not right. So can you just check my thyroid? Like, can you just check me out? And so she did, and she checked my thyroid, and my TSH was less than 0.00. So that meant that I was hyperthyroid. So she sent me to an endocrinologist who did further workup, who determined that I had an autoimmune disease called Graves' disease, and it's basically where your body attacks your thyroid gland and makes you hyperthyroid. So your body uses all your TSH, and so you causes things like jitteriness, restlessness, anxiety, palpitations, and I had all of those. So they gave me some medication, and we started on some medication. I was still breastfeeding my daughter at the time, and I did not want to stop. But the definitive treatment for that is a radioactive iodine ablation. And basically, they do that at the hospital in nuclear medicine, and they do a thyroid uptake scan. So they give you a little bit of radioactive iodine, and they do a scan to check your thyroid to make sure that there's no hot spots, no nodules, no cold spots, anything like that. And if all looks okay, then they give you a high dose of radioactive iodine to essentially kill the thyroid. So I had that done in August 2016 because I was done breastfeeding. I felt like I was at a place where I could do that, because I knew that after you kill the thyroid gland, you're hypothyroid for the rest of your life. So you have to take thyroid replacement, Synthroid or levothyroxine, for the rest of your life. So that was in August. I had that done. After that time, my endocrinologist was kind of chasing my TSH, and we were adjusting medications and stuff. In March of 2017, that was August 2017. In March of 2018, I talked to my endocrinologist, and I told her I wanted to start trying to get pregnant in the summer. So we made some changes to my dose, some changes to my medication, and she was on board with it, and we made some changes, and she said, okay, starting in the summer, you can start trying. So that's kind of the thyroid story. So I take Synthroid. I take the brand name Synthroid. We've made multiple dosage adjustments over this pregnancy. My thyroid function has been normal for the last two checks, and I get it checked every 6 weeks. So it's been normal. So we're just going to keep me on this dose until delivery, more than likely, unless something happens. And then after that, I'll start decreasing my dose, because I take a lot of Synthroid. So that's kind of, and I don't really suffer any ill effects from any of those things at this point in time. I don't feel hyper, I don't feel hypo, I feel perfectly level, I think, as far as anything that my thyroid could have something to do with. Like I obviously get tired, but I think that that's a pregnancy related thing and a work related thing, as opposed to a thyroid related thing. I'm obviously gaining weight, but that's obviously a pregnancy related thing. So it's not a thyroid thing. And so that's kind of what I mean by feeling level as far as my thyroid goes. They did also, one other thing was, because I have Graves' disease as opposed to the autoimmune process of Graves' disease, my body creates antibodies that attacks my own thyroid. So part of what I had to do during this pregnancy was at 22 weeks, they had to check and make sure that my body was still not producing antibodies, because if I was, the antibodies can cross the placenta and they can attack the baby's thyroid, making the baby also hyperthyroid, which would make the baby tachycardic or fast heart rate, and it could make the baby small. She could have she could be small because she's burning all the calories and all the nutrition that she's getting faster than her body can take it and absorb it and use it to grow bigger. So I hope that makes sense. I had that done at 22 weeks. It was negative, so I was not still producing antibodies at that time. So everything was good as far as we don't have any reason to any cause for suspicion for anything wrong with the baby's thyroid. So all of that's the thyroid situation. So this is a new thing. This is something that I've been dealing with since after my first daughter was born. But it is something new this pregnancy that I didn't experience last pregnancy. So that's why I'm just throwing that in here. Okay, so then the other thing is the TIA-like episode. So to go back to that. So I had that event. That was my own personal experience. Like I said, I took an aspirin when I was pregnant until delivery, and then after that I stopped taking anything. Before I graduated high school, my paternal grandmother, so my father's mother, had passed away from blood clots. She had blood clots in her lungs called pulmonary embolism. It was actually pulmonary emboli. She had multiple embolisms. And they never found out where they were coming from, why she had them, they never found out after she passed away or before she passed away. But that was one thing. After my first daughter was born, my maternal grandmother, so my mom's mom, she passed away from an embolic stroke. So she had a stroke, a CVA, and it was the clotting kind. So there's different types of strokes. There's ischemic strokes, which are caused by blood clots. And then there's hemorrhagic strokes, which are caused by brain bleeds. So she had the embolic kind. So she also had a blood clot, basically. So fast forward, my daughter was 18 months old. My mom had, my own mother, had back surgery, and she developed a lot of complications as a result of that. She had a very rare spine bleed. It's extremely rare, and she spent a lot of time in the hospital. She ended up paralyzed from the waist down as a result of the complications, and while she was in there, she developed a blood clot in her leg. So they went in and put in a thing called an IVC filter, so an inferior vena cava filter. So it's a filter that goes below your heart, and it sits in the inferior vena cava, so that's the vessel that brings the blood back to the heart. And it sits there like a mesh strainer kind of thing. And what it does is when the blood comes back, if there's any clots that form distal, so below that, it will catch the clots and not let them go into your heart and potentially into your lungs, potentially to your brain. So she had that placed. So as a result of that, before she was discharged from the hospital to come back home with me, they determined that because she had a bleeding episode plus a clotting episode, and she had an IVC filter, that they felt like she didn't need any other medication to help prevent blood clots. So they didn't put her on anything, no aspirin, no anything. And my mother and I were in agreement with that plan. They explained everything to us. We're both healthcare providers. We both understood the risks and the benefits, and so we agreed to that plan of care. So about a week later, she was home with me. She had been home with me for about a week, and she started complaining that she didn't feel well. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with you. I wasn't sure what was wrong with her. She didn't know what was wrong with her. So she went to sleep that night. The next morning, she woke up. She was just screaming in pain and in agony, and her legs were blue. So I took her she went to the ER. Obviously, they scanned her. She had clotted. She had blood clots from the filter, the IVC filter, all the way down both legs. So she ended up having massive thromboembolism. So that's massive blood clots. Okay, sorry about I